Every dream has a beginning. For Clara, it began with her father's unwavering belief and her own relentless hard work. She was a physiotherapy student by day and a call center agent by night, sacrificing sleep to build a future her family could only imagine. On a cold December evening, she and a friend made a simple choice. They boarded a bus to go home. And it wasn't a bus, it was a trap. This single, ordinary decision set in motion a chain of events so horrific it would shake a nation to its core and reveal a chilling truth. Sometimes, the most dangerous monsters are not those lurking in the shadows, but the one sitting right beside you, smiling. Clara was born on May 10, 1990, in the city of Ethelberg, to a family of modest means. She was the eldest of 3 children and the only daughter. Her family did everything in their power to offer their children a better future. Her father had sold his ancestral lands to afford her education and moved to a more central location. For this, his relatives thought he was crazy. In their view, a girl shouldn't be educated. After all, she would have a husband someday, and her only duty was to have children and look after them. If an investment was to be made, it should be in the family son. The father, however, saw his children as equals and loved his daughter dearly. When Clara turned 22, she began working as a physiotherapy intern. The university tuition was far more than her family could afford. Therefore, she worked nights at a call center for a multinational tech corporation, covering her own school expenses. For those who don't know, working in any call center is one of the hardest things in life. Especially if you are also a student, your entire day is spent working and at school. Despite this, she was very happy to be supporting her family. After all, her father loved her very much and did everything he could for her. The calendar showed December 16, 2012. Clara had tea and chatted with her family. Afterwards, she set out to meet her friend Leo, a software engineer. After meeting up, the pair boarded a small white bus to get to their destination. Clara was wearing jeans and a woolen sweater. In other words, she was dressed quite ordinarily. On the bus, besides them, there were 6 men, including the driver. Some were migrant workers, nearly all of them were drunk. It was clear they had come from a celebration. What the pair didn't know was that all the men knew each other, and this was not a passenger bus. They had rented it for an event, and when Clara asked if it was going to her destination, they said yes. In fact, when the two hesitated about whether to get on, the men convinced them by saying there were other passengers and that they should hurry. Leo had traveled this same route before, so he knew the way. But something seemed wrong. The bus had deviated from its usual route and was going a bit faster than normal. After a while, the driver turned off the bus lights and then locked the doors. The pair rightfully asked what was happening and why they weren't on the usual route. The men answered their questions with mockery and began making disturbing comments. They asked them why they were out so late and whether they were married. Then, they commented on them being out together despite not being married. According to them, it was a great immorality for a girl to do such a thing. A woman could only go out with her husband, and this was not an appropriate time for a woman to be out. Things were escalating. The conversation took a different turn, and the men started touching them without permission. After a while, a fight broke out inside the vehicle. Despite being drunk, the men had the advantage in numbers and were stronger than them. Leo was quickly restrained. Then his mouth was taped shut. Not stopping there, the men began to beat him with a rusty iron rod. After a while, Leo couldn't withstand the blows and passed out. After Leo was neutralized, it was Clara's turn. The young woman was dragged by her hair to the back of the bus and beaten in the same manner. Meanwhile, the driver was still driving the bus. Not content with this, the depraved men began to brutally sexually assault her. It didn't end there. One of them inserted the iron rod into Clara's body. This caused her intestines to be pulled out. This ordeal lasted for more than an hour, and Leo suffered similar abuse. After a while, they threw the pair, semi-naked, onto the side of the road and tried to clean the bus to destroy the evidence. Leo, barely able to stand, pleaded for help from passing cars, but no one stopped for them. It was as if they were the only two people left in the whole world. Nobody cared about their situation. Not a single person helped them. Can you see how decadent society has become? Two people in a terrible state, and no one helps them. You might think it's a trap, but you could still call the police and report the situation. Around 11 p.m., a police patrol vehicle found them and immediately notified the Ethelberg police. If you think they were immediately taken to the hospital, you are mistaken. A crowd gathered with the arriving police, and both the police and the bystanders constantly asked them what had happened. It seemed no one had any intention of helping. The police teams, meanwhile, were arguing about what to do. The officers didn't want to get involved in this case. Some of them wanted to leave, saying this area was outside their jurisdiction. They hadn't even called for an ambulance. After some time, the police reached an agreement and, for reasons I cannot comprehend, took them to a small, ill-equipped hospital far away instead of a nearby one. Only 5% of Clara's intestines remained. Inside her, her entire body was covered in bruises and wounds. She had broken bones. Leo was in slightly better condition. He had broken limbs and many injuries, but his wounds were not fatal. Still, psychologically, he was in a terrible state. Lying in her hospital bed, Clara told the police what had happened to her. As you can imagine, many surgeries were required to save her. However, the hospital she was in lacked the necessary facilities. Therefore, after her condition was stabilized, she needed to be transferred to a more comprehensive hospital. On December 19, 2012, after a final surgery at her current hospital, Clara's condition stabilized and the decision for transfer was made. But her life was still at risk. Meanwhile, the news of the attack had spread rapidly. Upon hearing the news, the nation's prime minister ordered her to be transferred to the best hospital. Clara was put on a plane, but she suffered a cardiac arrest in the air. The doctors did everything they could to save her, but they couldn't regain her consciousness. During this cardiac arrest, her brain was severely damaged. There was also a severe infection in her wounds. A day after this event, Clara succumbed to her injuries and died. Her family was devastated. Their daughter, whom they had cherished, had been monstrously attacked. She had dreams and days left to live. After Clara died, many demonstrations were held in the country. Some were peaceful and for remembrance. Others were extremely aggressive. People demanded the killers be handed over to them, and the police struggled to control the protests. As for the killers, they were caught within 24 hours of the crime. The police had tracked the driver, Marcus, and found the bus. When the bus was searched, it was discovered that the instruments of the crime were still there. Among those arrested was the driver's brother. The other two were locals living in a shantytown. One was only 17 years old. Another was a 28-year-old migrant worker. He was both married and had a young child. Allegedly, this attack was not their first crime that evening. They had previously robbed a 35-year-old carpenter. In other words, these individuals were essentially addicted to committing crimes. Asterisk, the criminals were charged with kidnapping, destruction of evidence, sexual assault, murder, and attempted murder. They all denied the charges against them. Some claimed the police had beaten them and forced them to sign confessions. Their shamelessness didn't end there. On January 10th, the criminals' lawyers held a press conference. At this press conference, they said it was not right for two unmarried people to be using public transport at that hour of the night. According to the lawyers, the only ones responsible for this incident were the two people who went out alone that night. It was not right for unmarried people to be out together. Furthermore, the hour was not appropriate for being outside. This view was not shared only by the lawyers. On social media, many local people did not find it normal for a single woman to be with a strange man at that hour. According to them, the real reason this happened was the victims themselves. The criminal named Marcus would not attend any hearings. On the morning of March 11, 2013, he was found dead in his cell. He had hanged himself from the fan in his cell. Of course, whether he did this himself or if his cellmate did, we will never know. The other 5 were also constantly attacked. Therefore, they were transferred to cells where they could be alone. The one who was not yet 18 at the time of the attack, Daniel, was tried as a juvenile. On August 31, 2013, he was convicted of sexual assault and murder. After serving 8 months in prison, he was sent to a reformatory where he would stay for 3 years. The sentence he received was like a reward. In my opinion, if someone is vile enough to commit such a crime, they should be punished regardless of their age. After the death sentences were handed down, the criminals continuously filed for appeals. They even begged the nation's prime minister for mercy, but their efforts were fruitless. In 2020, they were executed one by one. The attitudes shown by the criminals after the event can be seen as the product of a sexist mentality. Instead of questioning the attack on Clara and the trauma she experienced, their blaming her shows how wrong societal norms are. In such backward societies, women are always seen as the enemy, while men are justified in everything they do. Perhaps if this case had not been so widely publicized in the media, a death sentence might not even have been given. Perhaps the criminals wouldn't even have been found. That was our case for today. I am definitely waiting for your comments on this case. If you've watched this far, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.